Good evening, everyone, and welcome to OEC's Facebook Live event, Connected Combos, Physical and Mental Health During Self-Isolation. We're so excited that many of you could join us tonight. And I wanted to start off with a big thank you to those of you who are essential employees. If you're helping to keep us safe, fed, and healthy on behalf of the OEC, thank you very much. We also know this is a really difficult time right now. Many of you are mourning. If you've lost a loved one, friend, or colleague to COVID-19, you have our deepest sympathies. Rest assured that we at the OEC are here for you during this time. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if we can help you in any way. If you're looking for resources to help you, please visit the OEC website at www.obesityaction.org. We have a special section dedicated to our COVID-19 efforts, along with resources on a variety of other topics. We hope you enjoyed tonight's discussion on Facebook. This is a new format for us. And so please forgive us if we have any technical issues about the storm here where I'm based. So hopefully we'll stay online the entire time. But the reality is, I think all of us have experienced with this new technology some glitches here and there. We are very excited to take OEC virtual tonight. In fact, just yesterday, the OEC announced that our Your Weight Matters annual convention will be going virtual in 2020. You can visit ywmconvention.com to learn more about that exciting news. And then throughout tonight's event, this Facebook Live event, we will be answering your questions, as many as we can. So please submit them to social@obesityaction.org, and I'll repeat that several times throughout the conference tonight. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Joe Naglowski, and I'm actually coming to you live from my office just outside of Tampa, Florida. OEC is based in Tampa, Florida, and 10 of our 11 employees work here. I've actually been at OEC now for almost 15 years, or actually that's not true. I've actually been here 15 years. Just this week, I celebrated my 15-year anniversary. And it really is my passion to give a voice to people with obesity to help them improve their lives and improve their health. And tonight I'm joined by two very special guests. One is a longtime friend and the other one is a new friend, and I'll introduce them now. So I'd like to introduce first Dr. Nina Crowley. She's been working with weight loss surgery patients and those that require obesity care for 13 years and leads the interdisciplinary metabolic and bariatric surgery team at the Medical University of South Carolina. She's also involved with the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery, commonly known as the ASMBS, as well as the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and has a passion for policy development. For more than 10 years, Dr. Crowley, who by the way is fondly known as Psycho Dietitian on Twitter because of her very unique background as both a health psychologist and a dietitian, has been a member of the OEC. And many of you probably recognize her from just her takeover just last week of our Facebook feed, where not only she was on, but her daughter did a little bit of a sneak peek on there as well. And I'm not sure if her daughter's going to crash tonight, but it would be a welcome sight if she did. And she's a great resource for us. Our newest friend is Cara Richardson Whiteley, who is a Novo Nordisk patient ambassador. She is a motivational public speaker, adventurer, and author of 2 books, Gorge, My Journey Up Kilimanjaro at 300 Pounds, and The Weight of Being. She's a former journalist and has also written articles for many publications, including Good Housekeeping, Self, Runner's World Magazine, and others. She lives in Summit, New Jersey with her husband and 3 children. Cara believes in delivering brave, honest, empowering, and compelling talks and discussions that help audiences move mountains in their own lives and delve into issues including body acceptance, fitness, and achievement. So welcome to both of you. We're excited to have both of you on our Facebook Live tonight. Given the current status of the world and tonight's discussion topic, how are you both doing? Cara, I'll start with you.
Hey, we succeeded in getting through one more day of this quarantine, 3 kids in the house. My husband, thankfully, we have an au pair, but I think the success of this is looking at the long term and the good of what we're doing of staying home, but also just taking it down into the small steps of it and taking it day by day.
Thanks, Cara. And Nina, how about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to balance all the hats that I'm wearing. And I guess I thought I wore a lot of hats before, but I've got a few more. Kind of balancing with work and helping cover for someone who is furloughed, being at home with my kindergartner, who we just found out will be home until August, and all the other all the other things. So I think every day's been a little bit different, and we've each day got a little more into our routine. And I think by the time we've got it down, we'll probably switch it up again and go back to work.
Yeah, unlike the two of you, I'm an empty nester. Our son's off at university. He hasn't come back yet, but he'll come back in mid-May because classes there are delayed or at least gone virtual for the summer. So, but it has been an interesting and adjusting and, making interesting adjustments. Those first 2 weeks, I will admit, were a little hairy, right? As we made the transition, got all our employees taken care of, got our families taken care of. But now, like both of you, I'm kind of getting into the groove, and we'll see how it goes moving forward. So I guess I'll start off with a question for both of you. What are you finding as some of the best ways to manage stress as you go forward? Nina, I'll start with you.
Well, I have definitely found that getting up and getting into a routine with starting for my daughter in the day has helped my work day. So even just as today, I spent a little bit more time with her doing a walk this morning, doing a scavenger hunt for Earth Day, actually, but doing a little bit with her every morning helps me get my day settled. And so that's been good. And then I've definitely kind of flip-flopped between different ways of exercising, and I'm definitely a morning exerciser if I'm going to do it. And so whether that be a walk or a class that I've been able to do, those have been some ways that I've been able to kind of get my day started. And then the other biggest thing that I've been working on is just getting my day laid out in a different way. It's just, different setup, different desk, and all of that. So the work stress for me, kind of managing that has been a little bit harder than the family stuff. I've enjoyed, I've said if I didn't have to work, I could really kind of enjoy this at home and doing all the creative teacher stuff with her. I really like that part. But the back and forth and having her be for the first few weeks, really not understanding that I was not just messing around on my phone or on Facebook, and I was really doing work. And even still, I'll be on a phone with a patient or in a meeting, and she'll come and want to, just have me help her spell a word or color something. So, my stress has kind of ping ponged between the work and the parenting, and that's been okay. I think everything else, I've gotten through that with routine, and also just kind of being accepting of the fact that it's not going to be great every day, and that we're going to have some good days and some bad.
Thanks, Nina. Cara, any tips from you on the best ways to manage stress?
Oops. I'm sorry, I just dropped off for a second.
No worry. Cara, any tips from your end on managing stress?
Yeah, well, first of all, just going with the flow with the internet is the first part of it all. I mean, there's so many people online in my house sometimes. It's hard to just stay online and stay connected. I mean, I think the first part is just like Nina said, it's making a commitment to kind of burn off some of the stress of the day. I think it's really important every day that I get out. And even though I live in New Jersey, so the county and state parks are closed, and I normally find such solace in being out in the hiking trails, but I can walk around my neighborhood and just take a minute each day. And I try to make a point of listening to podcasts while I walk, because I think it helps me kind of process it instead of just kind of sitting at home and feeling actionless, which is nice. And also, I just make sure that in our house every day we let light in. We start the day, we end the day, and we just get through one day at a time. So that means that, we open the shades, we put on, daytime clothes. I mean, I admit there've been a few pajama days here and there, but for the most part, we try to just start the day and end the day and just have some kind of beginning, opening, hope, and then closure. And here we are at the end of another one.
Thanks. I will have to admit, this is my first day wearing a button-down shirt again, which I don't think any OEC members ever not see me in a button-down shirt before. I'm normally in my exercise clothes, but maybe I'll take your advice. But I will say that I too have developed a quick routine, and that is I rarely start my day and go to work just like I normally do, right? Except I'm just going to my designated space in the house to do that, and it's worked for me and at least kept some normalcy, because for those of you that do know me, I'm a very routine oriented person. And so that part of breaking routine has actually been the hardest part of me. So Nina, I did want to ask you a serious question though. I mean, we do have some of our members that are really struggling kind of with their mental health right now. Any advice on them seeking help right now if they need it from their professional colleagues, from your professional colleagues?
You almost got a cameo. So she was just letting me know that the Todd found a girlfriend at the end of Fox and the Hound, which was upsetting her for the last 15 minutes. So so finding help to manage stress, I think, is something that we all have probably needed. What I've been talking to our patients about is really making sure that they're using telehealth. And so that had been a word that was very common in our vocabulary at MUSC. Thankfully, we've had a really strong telehealth presence for the past several years. And so we've been wanting to ramp that up and increase that in our services. But now it's just arrived, and so many people are learning what that is and getting used to it. So what I've been talking to most of our patients about is really making sure that in this time you're not staying away from the healthcare providers. You might not be going into the office, but I think people at first were just hesitant to do any routine kind of visits. And what I'm seeing is that the hospitals and the providers are really wanting to get back into work, and they're home, they're working, they figured out telehealth. So I've been telling patients, no matter what the issues, whether it be behavioral health, mental health, trying to get back to even routine annual visits for my bariatric patients. It's get in touch with your office and see how they're doing the telehealth visits, and see if you can do that. I've actually, introduced that to our patients as a, do this while you can. And right now we hope insurance is going to be very lenient on where the service is provided, whether that be, in person or through telehealth. But we hope that sticks. But I've been telling patients that, get your visits in now while you can from home, and it's convenient. You don't have to drive, it's inexpensive, and all of that. So I think that's, the push is, let's use this while we can. Let's, get through these kind of visits, because otherwise everything's going to back up in a couple months. And then when you're really struggling, it'll be hard to get there. So if your office, if your, healthcare providers that you currently see are not up and running with telehealth, there are plenty of independent providers, private practice, or businesses that would provide that kind of service. So I really think that is something that we all should be seeking out, even if that's not a service that we're routinely using.
Thanks, Nina. And I just want to re-encourage what Nina shared there. If you're really hurting mentally and or physically, there still are options for your care. So please don't delay it. Seek it out if you can. And honestly, what Nina's point about it being maybe a little less expensive right now, the reality is that most insurers are waiving the copays for telehealth. And so it may actually be even less expensive for you to seek the help that you need. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. And Kara, you went there a little bit in your opening there about kind of physical health and your physical routine, and your routines have been disrupted. So you already mentioned hiking and walking around your neighborhood, but any other ways you've been keeping up your physical activity?
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that when we're not in lockdown, my favorite place to be is the gym. But that doesn't mean that I haven't amassed a number of pieces of equipment in our house. We've got a rowing machine. We've got an old Nordic track I got off FreeCycle. And right as this was about to, close down our state, I ordered a TRX set. So I really try to make sure, I mean, not only, has it been great with like the kids, getting out to ride bikes and taking walks with them. But I've kind of found new ways to stay active, and even a yoga studio that I just haven't been able to figure out a time of when I could go to their classes. Now they're all online. And so I can just hang out with my favorite yoga teacher on demand. And so that's been kind of nice to rediscover different ways to move my body, because even if, I think a heartbreaking piece of news this past week came, and that is that my daughter's camp has been canceled. And so summer camp. So that means I can't do the long trail. And that was a really big goal of mine, or at least if I did, it would be very, very logistically hard. And who knows if the trail will even be open at this point. But that doesn't change the fact that I need to keep my body in a place where I can take on those kinds of adventures, no matter where they are: Vermont, France, Africa, wherever I want to climb and hike in these days. I need to make sure that no matter what part of lockdown we're in, no matter if the doors open tomorrow, that I'm moving my body in a way that keeps me feeling strong and just kind of on top of my physical health.
Thanks, Nina. We saw you on Facebook Live engaging in one of your physical activity programs. What else have you been trying?
Well, honestly, the thing that I've had the most fun with has been an evening bike ride, and we had all just got our bikes tuned up and with all the the gear and the flair, and so we've really been enjoying that. I live in a really social, active neighborhood, and for me it's both exercise, it's hanging out with my husband and my daughter, but it's also the socially acceptable way for me to go pop in and kind of hang out from afar with all my neighbors. So I'm like standing in the middle of the street on the bike and looking and kind of like, can I talk to you guys for a little bit? So that one might not be as continuous of exercise, but that's been one. And then like Cara said, we don't have all that equipment, but what we've amassed over the past couple of weeks are kind of all these individual sport equipments that my daughter's been playing with. So we've got the tennis thing that's on a tether that we've been playing with when they close the tennis courts, and the Skip It, which is something from the 80s that they apparently still make, and that's been really fun, and jump rope. And so that kind of stuff has been kind of good in a lot of ways. It seems like there's so much negative stuff going on, but I've actually talked to so many people who have really kind of found some positive ways to connect. I mean, connection, I'm a 100% extroverted person, so it's not meeting all my needs, but it's getting close for the circumstances.
No, I think that it's been interesting for me because I was definitely a gym person, and this change, of course, is basically what we've decided is during my commute time in the mornings, I no longer have my 30-minute commute into the office, right, in traffic, which was horribly stressful. And now I have this time. And so we've been, for a while, we live in the country, so you have to walk down to the end of our street to get our newspaper. And of course, they're not producing the newspaper anymore because of what's going on with all the financial issues and things like that. But we're still walking the dogs past where the newspaper would and actually go a little farther each day. And actually, even this week, I took out, one day I used Facebook and used an app, workout that Yelena, who does them for OEC, put out for us. And I actually did that after my walk. And then I've been using, and we won't endorse specific apps here, but I've been using another app that has 7 to 10 minute workouts that I can add on after my walk. I still don't think it's the intensity of my gym workout. And like many people, I can't get gym equipment anymore. It's so hard to find or even afford at this point. But it's been a remarkable, it's been a good thing. And I actually think, and maybe I can ask this to both of you, but I'll say in my case, those morning walks, when this is over, I think they're still going to be part of my routine. I'm going to have to adjust, my path and time to get to work and things of that nature. But I'm curious, is anything that you guys have been doing, do you think it'll stay as a normal part of your routine when this is all over?
Well, I'd have to say that one of the best ways that we've been able to get food here in New Jersey is this restaurant supply company switched gears, and they started delivering to homes instead of restaurants because there just isn't the need for restaurants right now. And so the cooking that we're doing at home is just extraordinary. And what the shift is that instead of, just because we used to get grocery delivery just from a regular grocery store, and there was a lot more processed stuff kind of sneaking in there. And so what I love about this is that you really kind of have to think, several weeks down the road, and also, just really rely on ingredients, fresh, wonderful ingredients. And so it's really changed up what we're doing at home. But if I were to have Yelp reviews right now, I mean, I would, my family is pretty happy with what's coming out of the kitchen. And so I really I would keep up that, renewed spirit of just culinary adventure, which is really lovely. And it's just part of the process too of, staying, keeping a sense of wellness in your own home. It starts in the kitchen. So I just really I love that adventurous spirit that's going on in our house.
How about you, Nina? Anything that you think will stick in the long run with your family?
Yeah, I think the bike rides are definitely part of it. That's a part of the routine now that I don't think we'll give up. It also can kind of replace that tendency to, have happy hour start or happen earlier. And so I think that's a good replacement for us. And we've been doing, I think, as you saw, ordering from some of the local farmers, and they've been doing less intense subscriptions where we can do, a weekend or a day or a one box instead of a whole entire season. So that's something that I had gotten out of the habit of, and I think I'll get back into that, because I love the challenge of getting something I don't know what I'm getting, and I just can kind of creatively figure out what to cook with that. And that's been something that kind of reinvigorated me. I had been in a kind of a rut with what we're making at dinner time. So we've really gone out very minimally as far as getting, even our local restaurants, I haven't been doing that much at all. So that's been kind of saving money. And we've been really, learning how to cook with some of that stuff a little bit more, which I think has been a good habit change for us. So yeah, I'll stick with that for sure.
Thanks. And I do want to remind the group, if you have a question for us, feel free to email that in at social@obesityaction.org, because we're happy to answer those for you as well. So I'm going to throw out we've been serious for a little while, so I'm going to throw out a fun question right now. So how about maybe on this less serious note, what's the one thing you miss most about social distancing? And please don't talk about your family or something serious. So, be vain here. What's the one thing you miss the most? And I'll go first. I do miss my hairdresser. I've seen that person for the last 15 years, every 3 weeks on Thursday night. Tonight would have been my night. I have not had hair this long since the 70s. So, and that was when I was a kid. So just keep that in mind. I apologize for that, but I will admit I miss my hairdresser. You guys got any confessions you want to make?
Teachers. I miss teachers, in-person teachers. I mean, wow, we're all just doing the best we can, homeschooling these kids. And I know the teachers are working hard at putting together lessons, but they're remarkable human beings to spend the day with our kids and to just take these concepts and make it kind of fun and interesting and stick in their brains. It's just a wonderful thing. So I definitely miss teachers.
Mine is more my habits and rituals, like Starbucks in the morning. And that for me is one of those things. I don't even really care about what I'm getting at Starbucks, but it's more who am I going to meet there and chat with. I usually plan, my work colleagues will laugh at me, but I usually plan at least 2 or 3 social things sprinkled into my work day, because I really have a high need for connection. And so that is one of my big things I'm missing, as well as, once or twice a week getting together with girlfriends and, going out to dinner, or, just really doing the girl talk kind of thing. And the Zoom calls are an okay replacement. But I really miss, being able to be that close to somebody and with the frequency and the amount that I did.
I will admit I've been on a couple of Zoom cocktail hours, and they've been enjoyable, at least to keep connections up. We have a friend that always had porch parties, and so we all set up our Zooms on our porch. We usually were on her porch, but now we're on that, and it did work. But I admit I missed that as well. So Nina, we did get a question online, and we did talk about this idea of seeking telehealth for therapy. So if you don't have an existing therapist and or mental health professional, are there general services, or do you have somewhere that you suggest people go to try to find someone, or can you do a new patient appointment via telehealth?
Yeah, so I think I would say it probably kind of falls into two different areas, because you have, I'm thinking again, I work in a bariatric surgery program. So our new patient evaluations for someone who's wanting to come through a program have been able to be done through telehealth. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit less intense as far as the amount of time they're spending, but they're getting to do most of that together. It took a little while because there were some laws or some regulations with the insurance companies that were a little bit longer to kind of allow telehealth as the way to provide that service. So I think the state that you live in will depend a little bit on the mental health providers that you have access to. But if that's the case and you're not able to go to your health center or your place you would normally go to seek that kind of care, there have been a lot of online type services that I hear good things about. I haven't jumped into any of them, but I know there's Talkspace, and there's a couple other virtual platforms that you can connect with a psychologist or a social worker or someone to talk through. And so I would say that would be a place to start, especially if you're looking for something more immediate. But I wouldn't, discount contacting your, local hospital or clinic or program that you normally would seek care from if it was in person.
Right, and if you're still looking, if you don't have a provider, OEC has our obesitycareproviders.com website. You can put in your zip code. You can contact one of the providers that's closest to you and ask them, who do you recommend to seek this kind of mental health? I think that would be a good strategy. So I got another question from the live stream audience, and actually it was on my list as well. So we'll start with this. So stress eating. So I know some of us have been engaging in that during this time. So any recommended strategies for dealing with stress eating?
Yeah, well, I think probably that it's going to be very person dependent. And, one of the opportunities that I've seen from a lot of people that during this time is that you really have a space between when you're thinking about what you're going to have in your house and getting it in a different way than I think we've ever experienced before. So no matter what, before this time, you could think of a craving, think of something you wanted to have that you didn't have, and go out and get it pretty immediately. So the impulse of, having, wanting something and being able to have it was pretty short in duration. And I think this space that we're getting between, right now, if I have, a craving for something, I'd have to, really figure out which store could I go to, do I have any time restrictions, or, do I need to have a big list, and can I do the grocery delivery? I can't seem to get a time to get them delivered in the next week. So I send my husband, but, that, I think that space between is something, really that we don't normally get, and that's something that we can kind of embrace. So that's one thought. I also think getting real with what's going on, and getting being kind to yourself about this is a time that is going to it's going to end. It's not going to be like this forever. It's not, eating when you're having the emotion of stress is not a really abnormal reaction. And it might, I think we do a lot of, vilifying that of, this is stress eating. How do we not do that? And I think sometimes by the acceptance of this is we're feeling stressed, and eating might make you feel better, and that might not be the end of the world. So if it feels like it's getting problematic, and if it is something that you're thinking that will derail some of your other goals, I think getting into what those goals are and finding the purpose in those can maybe reroute what you're doing as far as the more impulsive or emotion driven behaviors. But it's really going to depend a lot on who, who has what kind of individualized strategies you have in coping skills. So I always recommend kind of thinking about what ways have you been able to cope with other stressful things, and maybe not in the eating realm, and maybe accessing some of those strategies and being able to apply them to the food realm.
Right. And it's also a question of, for me, it's been about kind of going back to basics. And so I've, for example, I try to eat, 3 meals, 2 snacks, and almost by the clock, in that, I start my day, I have a snack at a certain time. That snack includes a second cup of coffee. And I try to make it a routine every day, instead of, because if I were to go back to my previous eating behaviors, it would be about an all-day graze, and that could easily happen in these times. But at the same time, when I'm really feeling stressed out, because to be honest, the highs are so high and the lows are so low, right? During this time, I feel like there's such great connection with my kids, and there's such, amazing things happening in the kitchen, and things that you're discovering while you have this time. But then the lows are so low, from, I live right outside of New York, and so everybody knows somebody who's impacted pretty awfully through this. And so, it's really important to connect. It's really important to talk. I check in with my mom every single day. She's up in Vermont, not only to see how she's doing, because of course she's more vulnerable to this kind of thing, but also to make sure that I'm unloading what I'm feeling too, because that's really, really important. Because even though the highs and lows sort of balance out, just it's important to have other people to help you carry you through this.
Yeah. I will say too, what doesn't help is everybody's memes and images and discussion about the weight that they're, going to gain, and the COVID-19, like the freshman 15, and all this kind of, I guess, jokey behavior that we're seeing online about weight gain. I think that is not an approach that's going to help, and that I know I could do without seeing that in my news feed for all the social media. So
Yeah.
I don't know of a good strategy for that other than unfollowing those people. But
Yeah. Follow the people who give you light and inspiration and hope. That's, because the other stuff take away any of the stuff that doesn't serve you, because there's going to be plenty of stuff that does not serve you during this time.
So I think, maybe one final question before we wrap up, because I know we've quickly gone through a half hour here, but, we kind of gone there a little bit with this last part around some of the memes, and then even some of your routine. But what about goals around weight loss? Is this the right time, or should we just be seeking status quo, or do you have some other recommendations? So what are your thoughts on goals around weight loss right now?
I can start.
Okay.
I've been thinking about, sort of, one of the ways I thought about goal setting during this time is almost like, how do you want to kind of emerge from all of this? Or, what is something that when you go back to work, you could talk, or when you go back to, if you're not working, when you go back to normal, what is something that you could talk about that you've achieved, and not in the way that, we're bombarded with all this information about being super productive and getting all of these things done. But, what's just kind of one thing that you could take this time to work on? You're not maybe commuting, and you're not spending time doing, 5 or 6 things that you used to do. So is there something you could use that time to do? And I think that is a really important way to refocus. I know the first couple weeks I spent more of my evenings, watching TV, watching a movie. And, that's not how I want to come out of this, because I won't remember what I watched 4 weeks ago. And that doesn't really work for me. So finding something that's like a nice medium term goal, right? It's not just getting through the day, but it's also not a really long-term goal that's going to be unachievable during this time. So I think that what can you achieve in a month or two? That's enough time to change a habit that you've feel is detrimental to your goals. And I think that's something we could all find and work on in the limited environment that we have right now.
Yeah.
And Cara, your thoughts?
Yeah, even though the long trail in Vermont might not happen for me this year, but the long trail of life continues on. And so even if I don't end up taking on that 273-mile trail this summer, there are so many mountains to climb down the road. And, these mountains have been here for generations, centuries and upon centuries before all this happened, and they will be there when this is all through. And so no matter what your goals are, they will still be there for you when you emerge from all of this. And so just kind of keeping the long vision and having a glimmer of hope that that whatever your goal is and whatever your motivation is, that even if there are low points during this time, that it will always be there for you in the end.
I want to thank the both of you so very, very much. And I want to thank everyone who joined us this evening on Facebook. I also want to thank Novo Nordisk, Togo Run, the OAC staff, and our tech vendors for assisting us to make tonight work. If you haven't checked out Novo Nordisk's Truth About Weight or OAC's resources at obesityaction.org, I would encourage you to check those out. We know we couldn't get to everyone's questions tonight, so if you want to continue to email them in at social@obesityaction.org, we'll do our best to answer them. And please do remember that the OAC is here for you. And you can get connected at our website to our members and to our community at no cost. It doesn't cost you anything to be part of OAC, so please connect. I'd also like to make a plea, and we've said this once already on the call, but I want to say it again, that if you need help, seek it. If you haven't seen Patty Nieces, who's OAC's vice chair's video about this, you can check that out on our Facebook feed. But care is out there right now. Please don't delay care if you need it. I think some of the data is actually starting to scare us that people are delaying care that they need. So please get it if you need it. Telemedicine really does work, and it is widely available. For those of you that know me, I always like to end with a quote. And so this time I'm going to quote my favorite healthcare professional, well, maybe not a healthcare professional, but that's Dr. Seuss. And Dr. Seuss said, when something bad happens, you have three choices. You can either let it define you, let it destroy you, or you can let it strengthen you. We know that bad things are happening right now for many. Let's look to each other, our friends, our family, our community at OAC for strength and support. Remember, we are here for each other. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks again to Nina and Cara. I appreciate your honesty and being part of this tonight. Please, everyone, be safe, be well, and have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye now.